The red sun of Zeta Prime cast long shadows across the settlement as Administrator Laura Ken walked the perimeter fence for the third time that day. Her crystalline exoskeleton caught the light, sending small rainbows dancing on the ground beside her. 50 years had worn grooves into her once smooth surface, each one a reminder of another year of abandonment. "Administrator," called a voice behind her, "the power readings are dropping again." Laura turned to see Mirek, her chief engineer. His younger form still shone with the blue tint of youth, though his eyes held the same weariness as everyone else. "In the colony." "How long?" Laura asked, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of stress that she couldn't hide anymore. 6 months, maybe 8 if we cut life support to the outer sectors," Mirek said. "The core is failing faster than we predicted." Laura looked beyond the fence to where 3,000 of her people worked in the fields. They grew food that barely kept them alive in soil that was never meant for their crops. Another 4,000 were in the mines or tending to the young. The remaining 3,000 were either too old or too sick to work. 10,000 souls. All that remained of the once proud Cerulean mining colony. "Don't tell anyone yet," she said. "Let me speak with the council first." As Mirek walked away, Laura climbed the watchtower. From there she could see the entire settlement. Round buildings made of local stone and salvaged ship parts spread out like ripples in a pond. At the center stood the communication tower, still, sending its signal into space every day for 50 years. No one had ever answered. The council chamber was half empty when Laura entered. Of the 12 seats, only 7 were filled. The others had died over the years, and no one had been chosen to replace them. What was the point? They all knew their fate. "The power core is failing," Laura said without sitting down. "We have 6 months. Elder Jor, the oldest among them with a deep green tint to his crystals, sighed. "We could reduce the population. The old could volunteer." "No," said Laura firmly. "We will not become that. Not after all we've survived." "Then what do you suggest?" asked Pell, who had been born on this planet and never seen their homeworld. "We've sent ships to search for help. None returned. We've called into the void for 50 years. No one answered." Laura had no answer. The Galactic Confederation had abandoned them when the Great Plague hit. Resources became scarce. Distant mining colonies like theirs were silently erased from records. Supply ships stopped coming. Communication went dead. They were expendable. "We keep trying," Laura said finally. "We always have." That night, Laura couldn't sleep. The weight of 10,000 lives pressed down on her. She left her dwelling and walked to the communication tower. Inside, young Tren sat monitoring the equipment. His crystal form was still forming. Patches of it clear as glass, not yet, colored by age. "Any signals?" Laura asked, knowing the answer. Tren shook his head. "Nothing, Administrator. Just the usual background noise." Laura placed her hand on the console. "My parents helped build this tower. They believed someone would hear us." "Maybe no one's left to hear," Tren said. "The plague might have killed them all." "Then we are truly alone," Laura whispered. A loud beep from the console made them both jump. Tren's fingers moved quickly over the controls. "What is it?" Laura asked, her heart beating faster than it had in years. "I don't know," Tren said, excitement in his voice. "It's not Confederation. The pattern is all wrong, but it's definitely artificial." "A ship?" Laura barely dared to hope. "Yes, in orbit." Tren's voice cracked. "But not one of ours. Not Confederation. Design at all?" Laura rushed to the window and looked up at the night sky. She couldn't see anything, but something was up there. Something unknown. "Send the welcome signal," she ordered. "Are you sure?" Tren asked. "We don't know who they are." "Whoever they are, they're not Confederation," Laura said. "That's enough for me." The news spread through the settlement like fire. By morning, everyone knew. A ship was in orbit, not Confederation. Something else. Someone else. Hope flared in hearts that had been empty for too long. Laura called the council together. All seats were filled now, even the empty ones. Everyone wanted to be part of this moment. We must be careful, Elder Jor warned. They could be hostile. They could be our only chance, Pell countered. Our power core is failing. Without help, we die. Before anyone could respond, Mirik burst into the chamber. Administrator, they've sent something down. A small craft. The council chamber emptied as everyone ran outside. In the central square, a crowd had already gathered, pointing at the sky. Laura pushed through them, calling for calm. A small craft, sleek and silver unlike any Confederation design, descended slowly. It made little noise, just a soft hum that tickled the crystals in their bodies. Everyone back, Laura ordered. Give them space. The crowd retreated, forming a circle around the landing area. The craft touched down gently, stirring up little dust. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hiss, a door opened. 3 figures stepped out. They stood on 2 legs, had 2 arms, and their bodies were covered in some kind of suit. Their heads were encased in clear bubbles that reflected the sunlight. Through these, Laura could see they had only 2 eyes, set close together, and strange, flat features. Their skin varied in color from pale to dark brown. They were nothing like Cerealians. Nothing like any species Laura had ever seen or read about in the old Confederation archives. One of the figures stepped forward. It raised its hands, empty, palms out. A universal gesture of peace. I am Captain Alan Price of the Earthship Endeavor, it said, its voice coming through a speaker on its suit. We received your distress signal. We're here to help. Earth. Laura had never heard of it. These creatures, humans, were unknown to her people. They weren't part of the Confederation that had abandoned them. I am Administrator Laura Ken, she said, stepping forward. Welcome to Zeta Prime. We've been waiting for someone to hear us for 50 years. The human called Price tilted his head slightly. 50 years? You've been sending that signal for 50 years? Yes, Laura said. Since the Confederation abandoned us during the Great Plague. The 3 humans looked at each other. Something passed between them that Laura couldn't read. Administrator Ken, Price said, I believe we have much to discuss. As the red sun of Zeta Prime began to set, casting its light on humans and Cerealians standing together, Laura felt something she hadn't felt in 50 years. She felt hope. Captain Alan Price removed his helmet once the air tests came back safe. The other 2 humans, Dr. Gary Peterson and Engineer Sam Ortiz, did the same. The Cerealians watched with wide eyes as the humans revealed their faces. Many of the younger ones had never seen any being besides their own kind. Your atmosphere is breathable for us, Alan explained to Administrator Laura. A bit thin, but we can adjust. Laura led the 3 humans to the council chamber. A crowd followed them, keeping a respectful distance but unable to contain their curiosity. Children with partially formed crystal structures pointed and whispered. Elders moved more slowly, their deep-colored crystals catching the light. Inside the chamber, the council members rose as the humans entered. Elder Jor stepped forward, his ancient green crystals clicking softly as he moved. In 50 years no one came, he said. Why have you come now? Alan looked at the old Cerealian. We only recently developed the ability to travel between stars. Your signal was the first alien transmission we ever received. We didn't know about your Confederation or that anyone was out here. The council members exchanged glances. Humans were new to space travel? How could they not know about the mighty Confederation that had once ruled hundreds of worlds? What exactly happened here? Dr. Peterson asked gently. His dark skin contrasted with his white medical uniform. Your distress signal mentioned abandonment. Laura told their story. How Zeta Prime had been a proud mining colony sending valuable quantum crystals back to the Central Worlds. How the Great Plague swept through the Confederation, killing billions. How resources became scarce, and distant colonies were cut off without warning. We were left with mining equipment, not farming tools, she explained. Our people were engineers and miners, not farmers. Many died in those first years. We adapted, but slowly. And no one ever came back for you? Engineer Ortiz asked. His round face showed shock and anger. No, said Pell, who had been born on Zeta Prime. We sent ships to find help. None returned. Either they were lost in space or found nothing worth coming back for. As they talked, a commotion arose outside. A young Corellian burst into the chamber, his crystals flashing with urgency. Administrator, the Eastern Power Junction is failing, he shouted. Mirik, the chief engineer, jumped to his feet. That supplies the medical center and food storage units. Laura turned to the humans with fear in her 4 eyes. This is what I was telling you about. Our power core is failing. We have maybe 6 months left. Engineer Ortiz stood up quickly. I can help. Our ship has portable power units. I'll come too, Sam said. I want to see your power systems. Mirik led Sam and the young messenger out, while the others continued talking. Dr. Peterson asked about the colony's medical needs, and Laura introduced him to their head healer. Soon the doctor was escorted to visit their medical center. Alan and Laura remained in the chamber with Elder Jor and a few other council members. How many humans are there? Elder Jor asked. On our ship, the Endeavor, we have 120 crew members, Alan replied. On Earth, our home planet, there are billions. And you've never met aliens before us? Pell asked in disbelief. Alan shook his head. You're the first. We've found ruins and abandoned outposts, but never living beings until now. Laura leaned forward. These abandoned outposts, were they Confederation? We don't know, Alan admitted. The writing and technology were unfamiliar to us, but now that I've seen your designs, yes, I think they might have been. A silence fell over the room as this information sank in. The Corellians had believed they were the only survivors of their colony network. Now they wondered if others had been abandoned too. Later that day, Sam Ortiz returned with Mirik. The human engineer's face was grave. Your power core is beyond repair, he told Laura and Alan. It's a miracle it's lasted this long. But I have good news too. The Endeavor can provide emergency power while we work on a permanent solution. Can you fix it? Laura asked, hope in her voice. Not fix, Sam said. Replace. With your permission, Captain. I'd like to request that the Endeavor send down our spare fusion generator. It's smaller than what they need long-term, but it would buy them years, not months. Alan nodded without hesitation. Of course, make the arrangements. That night, as the red sun set, the humans and Corellians shared a meal in the central square. The colony's musicians played their crystal instruments, creating sounds the humans had never heard before. The children, more curious and less afraid than the adults, approached the humans with questions. A young Corellian named Krell sat next to Dr. Peterson, watching him eat with fascination. Your food is so different, Krell said. You chew it, Dr. Peterson smiled. How do you eat? We absorb minerals through our lower crystals, Krell explained, pointing to the glittering structures at the base of his torso. But we can drink like you do. As the evening progressed, more Corellians joined the gathering. The fear and suspicion began to melt away. Alan watched his crew interact with the aliens and felt pride. Humans had dreamed of this moment for centuries. First contact with intelligent life from another world. But the moment was bittersweet. These people had been abandoned, left to die. What kind of civilization would do that to its own colonies? Alan found Laura standing apart from the celebration, looking up at the stars. Administrator, he said, joining her. Your people seem happier tonight. Hope is a powerful thing, she replied. For the first time in 50 years, we have it again. Tomorrow, I'd like to see your communication records, Alan said. Everything you have about the Confederation. There may be clues about what happened to them or to other colonies like yours. Laura turned her 4 eyes to him. Do you think there might be others? Other abandoned colonies? I don't know, Alan admitted. But if there are, we'll find them. Above them, visible through the thin atmosphere of Zeta Prime, the lights of the Endeavor moved across the night sky. To the Corellians watching, it was a symbol of salvation. To Alan, It represented humanity's first steps into a larger universe, one with more darkness and cruelty than they had imagined, but also with more opportunities to help. "Captain," Laura said softly, "why are you helping us?" "We have nothing to offer you. Our crystals are nearly depleted. Our technology is outdated." Alan looked at the alien woman, her crystalline form catching the light from the fires. "Because that's what humans do," he said simply. "We help when we can. No one should be abandoned and forgotten." As the celebration continued into the night, no one noticed the small light that blinked on in the communication tower. After decades of sending messages out for the first time, it was receiving one, from very far away, in a language it recognized. Morning came with a flurry of activity. The crew of the Endeavour sent down more people and equipment. Large metal boxes containing the promised fusion generator were unloaded from a shuttle. Sam Ortiz directed a team of human engineers and Cerellian workers as they prepared to install it. Tren burst into Laura's dwelling, his young crystals flashing with excitement. "Administrator, the communication tower received a signal last night." Laura jumped to her feet. "From where? The humans?" "No," Tren said, his voice dropping. "It's in Confederation code. Old code, but I recognize it." Laura felt her four eyes widen in shock. After 50 years of silence, why would the Confederation reach out now, just as humans had arrived? She hurried with Tren to the tower. Inside, Captain Alan Price was already there with Paul Winters, the human science officer who had arrived with the morning shuttle. They were studying the message on the screens. "What does it say?" Laura asked, her voice tight. Paul looked up. His pale skin and light hair contrasted with his dark blue uniform. "We can't decode it fully, but it seems to be an automated response to your signal." "Automated?" Laura felt disappointment crash through her. "Not a real message?" "Not exactly," Paul said. "It appears to be from a beacon, a navigation beacon meant to warn ships away from this sector. But here's the strange part. It's not a warning about natural dangers." "What is it warning about?" Tren asked. Alan's face was serious. "It says this sector is under quarantine by order of the Central Confederation Council. Entry is forbidden under penalty of law." Laura's crystalline body made a soft cracking sound, the Cerellian equivalent of a gasp. "They quarantined us? Left us here to die and then made sure no one could find us?" "That's what we need to find out," Alan said. "Officer Winters will work with Tren to trace the signal back to its source. Meanwhile, I'd like to see those communication records we discussed." In the colony's archive room, Laura showed Alan the complete records of their final days as part of the Confederation. The last supply ship, the last official message, the first unanswered distress calls there, Alan said, pointing to a line in the final message. "It mentions the quarantine but says it's temporary, due to plague concerns." "We had no plague here," Laura said firmly. "Not a single case. We were far enough from the central worlds to avoid it." Alan frowned, reading further. "This doesn't make sense. The final supply manifest shows they took more from your colony than they delivered. They removed quantum crystal processors and something called fold generators?" "Yes," Laura said. "Our most valuable technology. They said it was needed for the war effort against the plague. We didn't question it. We were loyal." "And then they abandoned you," Alan said softly. Outside, the installation of the fusion generator was well underway. Sam worked alongside Mirik, teaching the Cerellian engineer how the technology worked. "Your crystalline biology is fascinating," Sam said as they connected power conduits. "You actually generate small amounts of electricity naturally, don't you?" Mirik nodded. "Yes. It's why we were good miners. We can sense energy fields that would be invisible to you. That must be helpful in finding the quantum crystals," Sam said. Mirik paused. "It was. But the richest crystal veins were depleted years ago. The Confederation took the best mining equipment when they left, so reaching the deeper veins became impossible." Sam looked thoughtful. "What if we could help you reach those deeper veins? Human mining technology is different but adaptable." "Why would you do that?" Mirik asked, his crystals dimming slightly in confusion. Because the crystals might be valuable to us too, Sam said honestly, and because helping you become self-sufficient is the right thing to do. Back in the communication tower, Paul and Tren made a breakthrough. We've traced the beacon signal, Paul told Alan and Laura when they returned. It's coming from just outside this solar system, a small automated station in empty space. Can we contact it? Alan asked. Better, Paul said with a smile. We can visit it. It's only a few hours away at our ship's speed, Alan nodded. I'll take a small team to investigate. Administrator Laura, would you like to join us? Laura hesitated. I've never left Zeta Prime. None of us have in 50 years. It might help us understand why your people were abandoned, Alan said gently. Laura straightened her crystalline form. Then I will come. A few hours later, Laura stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, watching the stars through the large view screen. The human ship was nothing like the Confederation vessels she remembered. It was smaller but felt more alive somehow, with its curved surfaces and warm lighting. It's beautiful, she said to Alan, who stood beside her. I'd forgotten how beautiful space is. We're approaching the beacon, announced the ship's pilot, a woman named Kate. On the screen, a small metal structure appeared. It was clearly Confederation design, angular and efficient with the familiar six-sided symbol on its hull. Life signs? Alan asked. None, replied another crew member. It's automated as we thought. Bring us alongside, Alan ordered. Prepare a boarding team. Soon Alan, Laura, Paul, and 2 security officers were inside the beacon. It was cold and dark, with only emergency lighting still functioning. Paul went straight to the control panel. This is older than I expected, he said, studying the alien technology. At least 50 years old from the looks of it. Laura ran her hand over the familiar controls. This is standard Confederation design. I can operate it. She began pressing sequences on the panel. Screens lit up, displaying information in the Cerealian language. What does it say? Alan asked. Laura's 4 eyes moved rapidly across the screens. Her crystalline body began to tremble. It's not just a warning beacon, she said, her voice breaking. It's a sentry. It was placed here to monitor Zeta Prime and report any ships that approached. Report to whom? Paul asked. The Central Council, Laura said. And there's more. It contains the original quarantine order. She paused, reading further. No, not a quarantine, a condemnation. What does that mean? Alan asked. Laura turned to him, her crystals dim with shock. It says our colony was officially condemned. Not because of plague fears, because of what's beneath our settlement. Her voice hardened. The quantum crystal deposits are far larger than we were told. The Confederation didn't abandon us because they couldn't save us. They abandoned us because they planned to come back later, after we were gone, to claim the crystals for themselves. Alan's face darkened with anger. They left you to die, so they could take your resources. Yes, Laura said, her voice barely a whisper. And according to this, they're planning to return. Soon, a warning light flashed on the beacon's console. Paul studied it quickly. It's sending a signal, he said. I think our presence has triggered some kind of alert. Can you stop it? Alan asked urgently. I don't know how, Paul admitted. Laura stepped forward, her crystalline hands moving over the controls with practiced ease. I can. With a series of quick commands, she shut down the beacon completely. But it's too late, she said, looking at Alan with fear in her 4 eyes. The message was sent. They know someone has found Zeta Prime. The Endeavor raced back to Zeta Prime. On the bridge, Alan called an emergency meeting with his senior officers. Laura sat with them, still shaken by what they had discovered. How much time do we have? Asked Kate, the ship's pilot. Hard to say, Paul replied. The beacon signal would travel at light speed. Depending on where the nearest Confederation outpost is, it could be days or weeks. We need to prepare, Alan said firmly. First, we finish installing the fusion generator. The colony needs power no matter what happens. Second, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. He turned to Laura. You need to tell your council everything we found. They deserve to know the truth. Laura nodded, her crystals dim with worry. My people will be angry. 50 years of believing we were simply forgotten, only to learn we were deliberately abandoned. They have a right to be angry, said Maria Diaz, the security chief who had joined them on the boarding mission. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, her face serious. But anger won't protect them. Plans will. When they returned to the colony, Laura called an emergency council meeting. All 10,000 colonists gathered in the central square to hear the news. The mood shifted from confusion to shock to rage as Laura explained what they had discovered. They left us to die, shouted one colonist, his crystals flashing red with anger. They're coming back to steal what's ours, cried another. Elder Jor raised his hands for silence. The question is not why they abandoned us, but what we do now. All eyes turned to Laura and the humans standing beside her. We have options, Alan said, stepping forward. First, we can help evacuate your people. The Endeavor can't take everyone at once, but we could call for more ships. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Leave their home? After fighting so hard to survive here? Second option, Alan continued. We can help you defend this world. It's legally yours by any reasonable standard. You've lived here for generations. With what weapons? Asked Mirik. We're miners and farmers, not soldiers. Third option, Alan said. We hide. Make it look like the colony finally died out. Remove all signs of current habitation before they arrive. The crowd fell silent, considering these choices. Tren pushed his way to the front. There's a fourth option, he said, his young voice strong. We contact them first. Tell them we know what they did. Tell them we have human allies now. That's risky, Maria warned. It might provoke them to come faster with more ships. Or it might make them reconsider, Tren argued. They abandoned us because they thought no one would know or care. Now someone does. The debate continued as the sun set. In the end, no single plan won out. Instead, they would pursue multiple strategies at once. The humans would send for more ships as a precaution. The colony would prepare defenses. And they would attempt to contact the Confederation directly. That night, Sam and Mirik finished installing the fusion generator. Lights came on across the settlement, brighter than they had been in decades. It's beautiful, Mirik said, looking at the illuminated colony. I wish we could enjoy it longer. You will, Sam promised. One way or another, we'll make sure of it. In the communication tower, Paul and Tren worked to prepare a message to send to the Confederation. Laura and Alan joined them to review the final text. We should be firm but not threatening, Laura said. If they believe we can harm them, they might strike first. Agreed, Alan said. We need to make it clear that the colony is now under human protection, but we're open to peaceful resolution. What if they don't respond? Tren asked. Then at least they know we're not helpless, Laura answered. That counts for something. They finalized the message, Dr. Peterson burst into the tower. Captain, we have a problem. What is it? Alan asked. Young Krell collapsed in the mines, the doctor said urgently. He was showing Sam and me the deeper crystal deposits. Something down there affected his crystalline structure. Laura's 4 eyes widened in alarm. Take me to him. In the medical center, Krell lay on a bed, his crystals pulsing with a strange blue light. Several other Ceruleans stood nearby, clearly concerned. What happened? Laura demanded. We went deeper into the mines than anyone has gone in years, Dr. Peterson explained. Krell said he could sense a large crystal deposit. When we reached it, he touched the wall and just collapsed. His crystals are vibrating at an unusual frequency, added the Cerulean healer. I've never seen anything like it. Sam entered the room, carrying a handheld scanner. I think I know what happened. The crystals down there are different from the ones near the surface. They're more pure, more powerful. Is he in danger? Laura asked. I don't think so, Dr. Peterson said. His vital signs are stable. It's almost as if he's communicating with the crystals somehow. As if on cue, Krell's eyes fluttered open. All four of them glowed with the same blue light as his crystals. Saw them, he whispered. I saw the Confederation. Everyone in the room fell silent. What do you mean, Krell? Laura asked gently. The crystals showed me, Krell said, his voice distant. They're connected. All quantum crystals are connected across space. The ones we mine here connect to the ones in Confederation ships and stations. I could see through them. Alan and Sam exchanged startled looks. Are you saying the crystals form some kind of network? Sam asked. Krell nodded weakly. The Confederation uses them for communication, for navigation. I could see their ships, 3 of them heading this way. Fear rippled through the room. How far? Alan asked urgently. 5 days, Krell said. Maybe 6. They're coming to reclaim the mines. Alan turned to Sam. Is this possible? Could the crystals really be connected this way? Sam looked thoughtful. Quantum entanglement is a proven phenomenon. If these crystals maintain quantum coherence across vast distances, yes, it's theoretically possible. Then we have less time than we thought, Laura said grimly. But we also have information we didn't expect, Alan pointed out. If Krell can see them through the crystals, maybe we can use that. Krell tried to sit up. There's more. I could sense their intentions. They don't just want the crystals. They want to erase all evidence that they abandoned us. They plan to destroy the colony completely. A heavy silence fell over the room. Then we need to be ready for them, Alan said firmly. And we need to call for reinforcements immediately. He turned to Laura. It's time to send that message, but not just to the Confederation. I'm going to contact Earth. If there's going to be a fight for Zeta Prime, the Endeavor won't stand alone. As night fell across the colony, the humans and Cerealians began their preparations. Whatever came next, they would face it together. 5 days passed quickly. Every colonist on Zeta Prime worked alongside the humans to prepare. Children too young to help were moved to underground shelters. The fusion generator was protected with layers of stone and metal. Food and water were stored in multiple locations throughout the settlement. The Endeavor remained in orbit, its sensors scanning constantly for approaching ships. Alan had sent urgent messages to Earth, requesting additional vessels. But even at maximum speed, human, reinforcements would take at least 2 more weeks to arrive. We're on our own, Alan told his crew. At least for now. Krell had recovered from his collapse in the mines. He spent hours each day with Sam and Dr. Peterson, exploring his new connection to the quantum crystals. They discovered he could sense the approaching Confederation ships more clearly as they grew closer. 3 ships, Krell reported. 1 large command vessel and 2 smaller ones. They carry soldiers and mining equipment. How many people? Maria asked. 200 on the large ship, maybe 50 on each of the smaller ones. Maria frowned. 300 against our 120 crew members, plus the colonists. Not good odds. The colonists can fight, Laura said firmly. We may not be soldiers, but we will defend our home. In the communication tower, Paul and Tren monitored all frequencies. Their message to the Confederation had received no response. Either it hadn't reached them yet, or they were ignoring it. On the morning of the 6th day, Krell burst into the command center that had been set up in the council chamber. They're here, he shouted. Just entered the system. Alan immediately contacted the Endeavor. Battle stations. Activate all defensive systems but hold position. Do not fire unless fired upon. Outside, the colonists moved to their assigned positions. Some took cover in buildings reinforced with metal panels from the Endeavor. Others manned makeshift barriers around the settlement's perimeter. Laura stood with Alan in the center of the colony, watching the sky. Thank you, she said quietly. Whether we survive this or not, you came when no one else would. We won't forget that. Alan nodded. We're not done yet. Above them, 3 ships appeared in the sky. They were larger and more angular than the Endeavor, with the six-sided symbol of the Confederation prominently displayed on their hulls. "They're scanning us," Paul reported from the communication tower. "They've detected the Endeavor." "They're hailing the Endeavor," Tren added, "demanding to know who they are and why they're in restricted space." Alan took a small communication device from his pocket. "Patch me through to the Endeavor. I want to respond personally." Once connected, Alan spoke clearly and firmly. "This is Captain Alan Price of the Earthship Endeavor. We are here at the invitation of the Zeta Prime colony, which has survived for 50 years after being abandoned. We know the truth about why you left them. This world belongs to them, not you." There was a long pause before a response came. When it did, the voice was cold and precise. "This is Commander Vex of the Confederation Recovery Fleet. There is no recognized colony on Zeta Prime. This world and its resources are Confederation property. Your presence is unlawful. Depart immediately or face consequences." Alan looked at Laura, who nodded firmly. "Commander Vex," Alan replied, "the 10,000 Cerulean citizens of Zeta Prime disagree. They have survived here for 50 years after being deliberately abandoned. Under any reasonable law, this world is theirs by right of continued habitation. Earth recognizes their claim and extends its protection." Another pause, longer this time. "Captain Price," Commander Vex finally responded, his voice harder, "you are interfering in Confederation matters you do not understand. We offer you one opportunity. Leave now, and we will consider this a misunderstanding. Stay, and you become enemies of the Confederation." Before Alan could respond, Krell cried out and clutched his head. His crystals flashed with blue light. "What is it?" Laura asked, rushing to his side. "I can feel them," Krell said through gritted teeth. "They're charging weapons. They don't plan to talk anymore." Alan immediately spoke into his communication device. "Endeavor evasive maneuvers. They're preparing to attack." In the sky above, the Confederation ships began to move, spreading out to surround the Endeavor. The human ship, smaller but more agile, darted between them. "They've fired on the Endeavor," Paul shouted from the tower. Everyone watched as bright energy beams shot from the largest Confederation ship. The Endeavor rolled to avoid them, returning fire with its own weapons. "They're launching smaller craft," Tren reported. "Heading for the surface. All colonists, take cover," Laura ordered through the colony's speaker system. "This is not a drill." Small Confederation ships descended toward the settlement. As they approached, something unexpected happened. The quantum crystals embedded in the colonists' bodies began to glow with blue light just like Krell's had done. "What's happening?" Alan asked in confusion. Krell stood straighter, his eyes wide. "The crystals. They're responding to us, to our fear, our determination." All around the settlement, the ground began to glow. Veins of crystal beneath the surface lit up with the same blue light. The approaching Confederation ships suddenly wavered in the air, their engines sputtering. "The crystals are disrupting their systems," Sam said in amazement. "The same technology they rely on is turning against them." Above, the space battle continued. The Endeavor was outgunned, but fighting well, landing several hits on the smaller Confederation vessels. Suddenly, a new alarm sounded from the communication tower. "New ships detected," Paul shouted, "coming in fast." Everyone tensed, expecting more Confederation vessels. But Krell smiled. "They're not Confederation," he said confidently. "They feel different." 3 ships burst into view, sleek and fast. They were clearly human in design, similar to the Endeavor but larger. "The USS Liberty, Discovery, and Horizon," Alan said in disbelief. "They received our message. They came early." The human reinforcements immediately engaged the Confederation ships, their weapons blazing. Caught between the Endeavor and the newcomers, the Confederation vessels began to retreat. Commander Vex's voice came through again, now much less confident. "This act of aggression will not be forgotten. The Confederation will return in force." "No, you won't," Alan replied firmly. "Because we're going to tell everyone what you did here, how you abandoned your own people and then tried to erase them. How many other colonies did you leave to die, Commander? How will the rest of the galaxy view the Confederation when they learn the truth?" There was no response. The Confederation ships, damaged and outgunned, continued their retreat. Soon they disappeared from sensor range, jumping to faster-than-light travel. On the surface, cheers erupted from the colonists. They had stood their ground. With human help, they had defended their home. Laura found Alan in the central square as celebrations began around them. "Is it over?" she asked. Alan shook his head. "Probably not. But you're not alone anymore. Earth will recognize Zeta Prime as an independent world under our protection. The Confederation will think twice before coming back." "And the other abandoned colonies?" Laura asked. "If there are others like us?" "We'll find them," Alan promised. "Together." Above them, the 3 human ships joined the Endeavour in orbit. The stars shone brightly in the night sky of Zeta Prime, no longer a reminder of abandonment but a promise of new beginnings. The colony that had been forgotten by all had found new allies, new hope, and a new future. And throughout what had once been Confederation space, abandoned colonies looked to the stars with renewed hope, listening for the approach of human ships.